Barton,
Hello.
then today is finally 17, 18, 20, 30 years old. 30 years old. Wow, what an achievement,
Say
Means
nice
that
things to me in the comments.
happy birthday to Barton, happy birthday to Barton.
In fact, I should have brought the portrait.
Yeah, you should have brought the cake. Because if you look at me.
I showed on the phone.
Fantastic present from the office. Hey. Barton, show us now to this camera. Go closer.
No, it's too bright.
I have
We changed the gamma. We'll put it somewhere.
We can show it in the computer there. Then
As interesting as that would be, I'm not sure it's as interesting as what we plan to talk about. And on my birthday, I'd love nothing more than to talk about some interesting things.
Before I start talking about anything else, let me check in my pocket if there is something. No, that's my underwear. Let me check better. Okay, we have here a very strange little present for Mr. Barton. And this is a Bitcoin wallet. The work is in a very interesting way. First of all, because Mr. Barton is an Apple fanboy now, like me, and his Apple has only USB-C. We provide Barton also with an adapter that goes from USB normal to USB-C to use the USB in his computer. That's one.
And I know that this guy appreciates me so much that the wallet is absolutely loaded with Bitcoin.
Yeah, like millions. But we can actually check. And then we can talk a little bit on how this key works, because it's a very interesting thing. So now we plug in our computer the key and see what happens. Wow, the key is becoming all the color, and we have something here. Where are we? If we open this, there is an index.
Oh, private key.txt. I was wondering why that was.
Okay. And now we can see that this is the address. I leave it here for 2 minutes because if some of you want to make a present to Mr. Barton, this is a Bitcoin address. You can scan it with your cell phone, send many Bitcoin to Barton, so you can buy his Lamborghini finally, because at age 30 everybody must have a Lamborghini, so it's not like, right? No, Lambo doesn't like Lamborghini. The Hammer, what do you want? The Hammer, the
American. Just buy me guns.
Guns and machine guns, okay? If we look further, this is the address, we can check the balance. And see that my generosity is not as expected, but the address balance is 0.01 Bitcoin.
It's actually a decent amount of money.
Is 1 cent of Bitcoin is as of today exchange about $93, $94, right?
It's not small.
It's not a little bit of money, but I'm here waiting. These were saved the 3rd of August 2019. So those are old money, stinky, very old bytes. There are in this wallet. So I leave here the address of the Bitcoin. Now, okay, let's go back to our face. But I can show you later. Somebody is getting ready to send a present to Mr. Barton. The peculiarity of this wallet is that it can be used, and when it's used for the first time, it generates a new address in the Bitcoin blockchain. So a new Bitcoin address is generated in this key. The private key to manage this Bitcoin address is inside this key. I don't know it. Barton doesn't know it. Nobody
in principle,
knows
the computer could now know it because it was connected.
No.
What's in private key.txt?
We want to read what is private. Is the instruction in how to retrieve the private key. So this USB is very cool. The first time when it's virgin new, you put inside the computer and it's an empty disk. You take any file of your computer, you drag it inside, and this helps generate the randomness to create the things. Then the disk disappear and reappear with all those files inside. And now there is all the information how to deposit funds into this account. But to withdraw the funds, we need to break it. There are special instructions, don't just break it like this, as an example. But there is a bar here, there is a plastic that need to be removed, and then a part need to be broken. When it's broken, the disk change again and show the private key on how to withdraw. And the private key is used to spend the amount of Bitcoin. So this is my birthday present, a crypto birthday present for CryptoBarton.
Amazing.
If you lose it, you lose it.
Okay,
Already spent the capital. All right. So, besides this festive beginning, we are committed today to discuss the management of an IT company. Do we? Yeah. So, what we are managing 25 developers circa and 25 non-developers in an IT company that is devoted in blockchain. So there are more than 50 people. Last count was 57. I don't know if we lost some on the way. But how developers mostly reason and work and how are motivated to do their job. So I'm the CEO, and I overview more the entire going of the company strategy. There is the marketing, there is the implementation of software, there is all the legal aspect, there is the human resources aspect, there is all the accounting, banking, financial, etc. An issue that need to be solved, maintenance, blah blah blah. Quite a headache. Barton, there is the CTO, that today has a different meaning. It's not the Chief Technology Office, but they said there is certainly too old because it's his birthday. That overview and motivate and brainstorm with and address the developers, which are very particular kind of animals. Well, tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. So, managing a team of people to create software projects is a lot like farming. You plant the ideas in the computer, you feed them electricity every day, and about 6 months from now, brand new software pops out of the ground. Very, very nice. No, I think we all know it's not like this. Although that would certainly be wonderful, and in the future of artificial intelligence, it may be more like this.
Already, I think there are machine learning that manage to code.
To generate code.
Generate code.
Yeah, it's a field in its infancy. So people like me are soon going to be out of a job. Send me Bitcoin.
Exactly.
No, it's I think it's a little bit different than other kinds of fields. So, say to take farming as an example. Actually, here's a job where you know exactly the set of tasks that need to be done, and you go and you perform them routinely. And the work is not particularly creative. You know, it's something you need to be determined, you need to go and do it correctly, you need to apply your intelligence to get the decisions right. But ultimately, there's a set of steps that if you follow exactly the set of steps, you're going to get to the correct answer every time. You're eventually going to cultivate the response that you want. And a lot of jobs are like this, like a factory worker working in a line or something like this. Software development is not like this. Software development is a very creative endeavor. So it's something that it really pulls on your brain power every day. It's not that you sit down and you follow the same instructions when you write code. You're confronted with a problem and you have to come up with a solution to the problem. And the different solutions that are possible in front of you all have different implications for how long it's going to take to write the code in the future, and whether or not it's going to be secure, and whether it's going to be a clean solution, whether it's going to create technical debt or problems that you have to. So all this thinking takes a particular kind of personality.
It's like artists. An artist need to prepare the imagery for something, need to think how to illustrate it, need to start implementing the illustration, maybe it doesn't match what the person, the commission, the work, expected. Yeah, it's a creative work, but it's a little more complex because the painting you see it. Software, you don't really see the creativity that goes behind to make the correct algorithm.
Yeah.
You see the effect.
Maybe you
Sometime
see
of
the nice form in your web page that has the colors all nicely tinted and the corners are a little rounded, and when you click the button it has a little pop over and you
But
think,
that's the
wow,
design.
such artistry went into this. But that's really only the most superficial layer of the amount of effort that's gone into making the application behave correctly.
Yeah, and in fact, I think that the way, and it's also another thing, so there is an analogy that I always do. When people is paid by time or quantity, let's say in a factory, you do a certain job, you're paid a certain amount per hour. In another case, you produce something, maybe as many you deliver, and the quality control is okay, then you get paid by. In terms of creativity, it's hard because first the brain never stopped thinking about the issue. So a developer that is facing an issue that needs to be solved with code probably is having dinner with a girlfriend and suddenly goes like, and the solution comes to his brain. Means in the background his brain never stopped thinking about that if he's honestly doing this. And there are very bright developers that find solution very fast. And there are those that are less bright, that takes longer, or still because they need to learn, to know. And seems unfair that they get the same salary, the same amount of salary, even though at the appearance they work the same amount of time. Both come and work at the office at 9 in the morning, both goes home at 6 in the afternoon, both have 1 hour break for lunch. But one is producing way more. So my analogy is this: let's say I have a transport.
Let's even take this one step further. When we say one is producing way more, the guy who's producing more value for the company may be generating significantly fewer lines of code.
This is another thing that
the quality of the code is something that you have to understand at many abstract levels to see the value.
And in fact, in the past, something incredible, IBM was charging per line of codes. So IBM clients, large bank like this, were paying for as much code was written because that seems the quantity they give a value to the work done. And believe me, that's absolutely wrong because mostly for programmers like me that been working with Perl a lot, you can make a full application in a single line because it can be so compressed and so architected. But believe me, to write one single line, it can take you 3 weeks, because the complexity is very high.
So a big part of the trade-off is that really, well-written code is thoughtfully created. It's general, which means that it's so very easily you have a lower level developer who's confronted with the problem that he needs to get something from, he needs to get a file from A to B, and he looks at exactly the kind of file and he says, okay, so I'm going to write this big function that knows exactly how to send A to B, or something like this. The good developer looks at this problem, recognizes that it's in a general class of problems. So the file format could change, the source address could change, the destination address could change, we could go through many things. He writes a general purpose solution which is parameterized for this particular case. So the work that the first guy did, maybe it takes them the same amount of time to create this code. Maybe even it takes the good developer a little bit longer to create his solution. The first piece of code is something that fits in this place only. And the second that one of these things changes about how you need to use this code in the future, it's no longer useful, it has to be redone. The second guy's piece of code, the minute that this new situation arises, now you just tweak a variable, you change a configuration, and the whole thing does exactly what you want because he solved the general problem, not the specific problem.
Not only, but the code written by the first guy is, because fits one specific situation, when the guy is coding another similar situation, is copied, pasted, modify, and reutilize again. So you're gonna find the similar code 50 times along the full application. And when you realize that there is a change that is essential in the core part of the code, you need to go find all the 50 places where this code is and change it 50 times.
I have a funny story about that. Even from everything every developer does. From
I went to translate a Unix software many years ago, and there was a simple form that was asking yes or no. In any normal developer brain, you create a form and you return the answer yes or no. This form yes or no was copied something like 380 plus times along the whole code, exactly the same. I was translating from English to Italian, so I had to go through and find exactly the same piece of code, and I realized how bad is this software being coded.
But by IBM standards, it would be more expensive.
Oh, way more expensive.
For having so many more lines of code than the other solution.
So this boils down that evaluating the quality of somebody's work. Or for example, you see that sometime you walk in the office, there is some developer that is playing a video game. Is this to be condemned as is not working, is playing video game? Or is playing video game because his brain need to be cleared so that the background of the brain can produce the solutions, and when the video game is finished, boom, comes out the code? Because I personally am like this. People is annoyed about me because when I am in a meeting, I am moving with my computer, touching things, because if I put 100% of my brain in the meeting, I fall asleep. I cannot give attention. If it becomes a sort of background, the attention is 100% there on the content, because I remove the other part that be wandering around about the topic that is being spoken in the meeting. I remove them and give them the things to manage my phone or computer, so that the clear part of mind can follow the meeting. As a developer, yeah, it is.
It's a strategy some people have.
Yeah, because the brain, work in a certain way for certain people and in another. But in an analogy, big analogy, to give an example, let's say I have trucks that transport rocks. So I have the big trucks and a company, and I have two trucks that are gonna be loaded of rock and need to deliver the rock somewhere. Where they delivering the rock, I pay two guys to unload the rock from the truck, and I decide to pay them a certain amount of money per hour. The first guy take down two rock very slow, smoke a cigarette, stop to chat, check his phone, and it takes 2 days to unload all the rock from the truck. The first guy is working fit, loads a lot of rock himself, and in half of a day, he unloaded my truck. Now, the guy that unloaded the truck in half of a day is getting half of a day of pay. The other guy is getting 2 days of pay, not only. But with a guy that he does all the job in half of a day, my truck is free to make more work and make me more money. With the other guy, the truck is stuck there for 2 days. I should punish the guy that takes 2 days, and I should reward the guys that take half day, not only because he did it faster, but because he made he freed the tools. Because the developer that produced code faster, at the end of the day, he's made more code, right? So he has
and this is one of those bizarre properties, which gets into, I think, the most challenging aspect of software development on large projects, which is so oftentimes, just like if you needed to build a house, oftentimes if you put twice as many people to build the house under a good architect, they build the house twice as fast because they're all working in parallel. In software, if you put twice as many developers on a project, easily you get twice as much code, at least. But whether that actually causes the software to be completed faster is typically not true. In fact, some people who study this think there's even an inverse correlation after a certain point. More developers means more people who need tasks, means more people who want to write code in order to, it means more code review, it means, the whole process.
The most risk, but at the same time, if it goes well, is the most efficient method is a one-man show. Because when everything is done by a single person,
it's all in their brain.
It's all clear and all goes down, there is no disagreements.
But now you have the scalability bottleneck that you can only take a project which can be realistically accomplished by a single person. And in the real world, typically, as much as we'd like to have the efficiency of one person imagining and constructing the whole thing.
I personally did nice project as just by myself, but but it's not really human. People end up not sleeping at night, tearing their hair off their head. But in fact, as soon as this scales to be a company, and then you get the issue that you need to have coordination. That because also we said that coding is very artistic form of expression, okay? Because unless you have the coder that they do those, but they're not even developer in my opinion. Those are data entry people. right? The real developer to make innovation is really an artist. And artists usually are emotionally a little bit easy triggered, let's say. So in a large group, there is gonna be a lot of issues that are not related to the coding aspect, but to the person-to-person interaction aspect. I manage a lot of IT company in my life, and I always thought that I can go and handle a kindergarten very much. There were people coming to me complaining that the guy didn't let use the screwdriver to fix the computer. Things that are to this level, or people that are extremely intelligent on the other side to create algorithms that are incredible.
And can consider that, and this, I'm going to make a nasty generalization. This is not true of all people who work with computers, but I think it's true of more of us than we'd like to admit. If you grew up and you didn't get the kind of attention you wanted from other people and develop socially, one of the easy ways to put that attention is into computers,
Absolutely.
which are more reliable and more. So many, I don't know, I don't want to out anybody. There are some people I've known that I think that if they had gotten the social attention that they wanted when they were young, they never would have picked up the computer and become fascinated with it.
It's
Maybe that's true of more things than just computers.
Gigs are socially awkward. Is
So this is my attempt to explain the interrelationship between these two phenomena.
Yeah, think about mostly kids that end up a little bit bullied, laughed out in school. He has no capacity to get respected with other kids. When he's close with his computer, he is the god of the universe that his computer provides, right? He dictates the rules, the computer obeys clearly. If the computer made a mistake, probably is his own mistake. He cannot be blamed, the computer. And is a safe word. Practically what you say is what happened. This is in terms of coding. And there is a lot to explore, there is a lot to...
Well, and I think in a healthy developer, this, what maybe or maybe not start as a kind of a, like an egotistical safety from the world and the computer that you can control. In the healthy developer, this evolves into a fascination and obsession with problem solving. This to see challenge and to try to feel the thrill of overcoming the challenge by figuring out the answer to make the computer do what you want it to do, which the computer is endlessly challenging in this respect. No matter what level you rise to in development knowledge and knowledge about computers, you still always find instances where you think it's going to do one thing and it does something else. And there is a complexity of the system that you didn't understand.
I think that
it's addictive to solve this challenge.
In the large form, probably this is a chicken and egg problem. I don't think that this evolve people into that. I think people are like this, so they get into the computer because it's a fantastic tool to do. Yeah. So it's a classic. If somebody asks the developer, can you count how many times this word there is in this piece of text? A normal person read the piece of text and keep count of the time that the word appears. Yeah. The developers are writing a piece of code that parse the text and you know.
In my experience, this has been the number one indicator between people who are, say, kind of, they can make a living in programming, they have a valuable skill, and compare them with the people who are like really the great developers who can build entire applications by themselves and things. The big difference is this, the presence or absence of this obsession with the kind of problem solving on the computer. Some people learn it because they need to pay the bills, and that's as interested as they are. Other people, they can't sleep at night because they're so interested in it, because they need to go and figure out what they can make the computer do. And these people, I think, become the really exceptional developers that will write you. Earlier in our analogy, they were the guy who wrote the abstract code when really all he needed to do was cross a bridge, but he built a plan for how you cross any bridge because he can't help himself.
And the value of these people, when married with a nice, positive, cheerful personality, which means a good team player, is extreme. So who can put together these two things? Deep passion, intelligence applied to implement solutions, nice, positive and cheerful personality that can go well with other people. What this person is gonna be perfectly fit in any team unless the rest of the team is toxic, is made by assholes, and it's gonna be potentially always in a good place when it comes to a career or an advancement. The problem on the other side from the management is to be able to create a team of this kind of people. These are such rare elements that you cannot base the idea of building up a company only with people like this.
Say, if there's 10% of the population that are extremely intelligent and 10% of the population that are extremely good-natured, then finding the cross-section of those is 1% of the people that you're going to hire.
But we can write the software too. Then there is another aspect of managing businesses that are in IT, and is all the non-IT part of it. First of all is the communication, the marketing. Starting from the fact that software engineers are socially awkward people, like incapable of sitting at the table and cheer up everybody. Typically, okay, obviously there are the exceptions like me, for example. But in general, this is the line. The perfect marriage is between powerful brain and execution and production, and powerful communication and charm on the other side to attract the public and the customer set, and the capacity to communicate correctly with the client. Because the problem is this: if I go to a doctor, I am illiterate in medicine because I am a computer programmer, that's what I do. And when I go to the doctor start telling me, yes, because the microfibrons, the connected, he can talk half an hour. I'm gonna look at the doctor and say, sorry, I have no idea what you told me. How do I am good or bad, what I need to do? Tell me in simple words. And it becomes a challenge for the doctor to transform, the way that for him is normal to think and to communicate with the terminology that refer to precise things for him, in a language that that I am illiterate in medicine can understand and make good use of it in a constructive way for myself. There was a very nice joke. I don't remember this medicine that you put is called suppository, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Then there is these farmers that go to the doctor. The doctor prescribes this suppository for them, and they go home. And they read the instruction and they cannot make sense of how to use them. So they call the doctor. The doctor says, "Oh, you need to take them annually." And what it says, what it is. They don't understand. Call again. You need to apply them in your rectum. Right? They don't understand. They call again, and the wife says, "Stop calling the doctor. He's gonna get upset." So they call the doctor. The doctor says, "You need to put them up your ass." And says, "See, I told you the doctor was getting upset." It is to say that the communication aspect in a complex kind of business such as software implementation is key, not to create a lot of confusion between a client that don't talk the language that developers talk or the software architect talk, and vice versa. And once the goal is to build something that has to be understood by both sides without creating disappointment of wrong expectation on each side. That is entered a very delicate aspect in business management.
There's one that I want to get to, but this one is probably precursor. It's one that comes first, which is that. And this
Thank you for translating precursor to a language that I can understand.
It comes from, just in case you didn't know.
Exactly. Thank you.
The precursor is the one that curses first. This is one that I think is more common from development to other things. So, say for example, if you want to build a building, the very first phase of this is you have to construct. First, you have to express what you want out of the building, why you're building it. After that, some people take some time, some architects, to come to a set of blueprints that show where the wires are going to run, where the water pipes are going to run, where the windows are going to be, how tall the rooms are, how many pillars, blah, blah, blah. All of this very specific information. And finally, once this architecture is completely approved, you can actually give to some guys to start executing and building the project. This part is the same in development. There's another part that's different that I'll get to after. This part is similar with development in the sense that really you have to go down to the detail on every single thing. If you're going to take a large software project, you have to clearly communicate between both the people buying and the people building it, precisely what is supposed to be built to make sure that everybody's in agreement. Now, for a house, the value of this thing is obvious to most people because a house is something that's very concrete and tangible.
And the people can
Most people
refer to
can imagine,
what
because
it is.
they've been inside a lot of rooms before, what it's going to be like to stand inside this room and if they're going to hit their head on the door and if they're going to be able to see the town from the window. In software, this is much less frequently the case. So people know that they want a software to do something. They have a business goal. You know, it's not their fault that they're not programmers. They have a business goal that they want to solve. Exactly what pages in the application, what forms and what buttons do what, and how somebody logs out. All of this is ancillary to their business goal. It's not the point of what they're trying to accomplish. However, for the people who are actually going to build the software, having these things and an extremely clear blueprint before they start the work is the critical aspect of success. You have to know exactly what you're going to build, because as much as the client doesn't realize exactly the shape of what they want to build in the beginning, and they'll tell you, you should go start working on it. Later, when you start to show them what you've built, they do know their business, and they know when what you've built is not going to solve their problem the way that they expect. And so oftentimes, if you go and build software for 3 months and come back and show them because they waved their hand at the beginning, then they come back and you see, and they say, no, it can't work like this. Obviously, it can't work like this because I have, this kind of warehouse, and these warehouses have these codes, and, obviously you can't have a form without the warehouse code field, and like, how could you have been so stupid? And
vice versa, and the developer says, I told you that the specification of the array cannot address and index this thing, and it's so stupid as that.
So there's a big communication difficulty in people who don't understand software but need it built, and people who do understand software and try to build it. And it's a very critical area to make sure that they can really come to terms.
And that's where most IT companies, they have an excellent skill set, end up failing and end up sued by client, and because there is no framework in the standard operating procedure, if you want, of the company